This is number one. This is number two. And this is number three. Oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Alright. Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so it's gonna be a little different. Well, not different because it's always kind of DIY. But as you can see in front of me, I have a disassembled K series engine. I know what that means. It means I am going to attempt to build a 700, yeah, that was a 700 to 800 or 800 capable horsepower car or engine as my first engine. This is my first engine I'm gonna build now. I'm gonna try to build a 700 horsepower car. But the only reason I limit myself to 700 is because my turbo is 750 rated. I know maybe we can push past that, but I need more than about 700 for what my goal is. So stay tuned, take in the intro, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about things that we need, things that we gather to get this engine put together. Alright. Alright, so first things first, I wanted to go through a number of the tools that I got to attempt to assemble all of this. So as you can see, crank is out, head is disassembled, the block is pretty much empty. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put together, because what had happened with my previous setup was that the bearings had a rod knock. So the bearings on number 3, I put a picture up here of it, or a video, like a snippet of it up here, and yeah, so pretty much had a bearing failure, and this time I decided that I was gonna try and assemble this myself. I've always something that I've always wanted to do, and perfect opportunity to do it. So I have my bridging the mic come, took the engine out of the car. He pretty much kind of disassembled it for me like this, and it's up to me now to kind of put it back together. So yeah, so alright, and so now I'm gonna just kind of go through some of the tools that I've gathered to get this thing done. Alright, so the first thing I got was an engine stand. So you got my Virgin Fortis, sold me this. I was gonna order it off Amazon, and then checked it, he had one for a pretty good price. You see me, come deliver it, drop it off, and I assembled it myself. So this is, I think, is a 750 pound engine stand, universal, so have it fit up and have the block already on it, pretty decent. So that's the first thing. Next thing that I have was a set of telescope gauges. Alright, so I believe this one, I have a full set. So these are the Michitoyo ones, pretty decent. You know, it's one of the top of the line ones. You can get these pretty cheap on Amazon, not this model, but others, but they tend to have bad reviews with the, as you can see, the springs here. So what you use these to do is to assist in measuring the diameter, the bore of a circumference or an area. Alright, so pretty much to get this block assembled, I need 2 of them, and this one will be for the rods. So this is about a 2-inch telescopic gauge, and this one is about, this is about a, I said 2 to 3 inch, yeah, I think, about a 2 to 3 inch telescopic gauge, and I think this one is a 3 to 4 inch. So 3 to 4 inch is going to measure the mains, and this is going to be measuring the rods. I may not use this one because in order for me to measure the rods I needed a vise so that I can put the rods them in it, so I can torque it down outside of the engine and then measure. But the vise that I have is the one that kind of clamps onto here, and when you try to torque down something to 50 pound-foot, it tends to want to break off the edge. So the best one to get is one that's flat, can hold down, and then you torque it down. So given that's the case, that I'm not going to do that. For the rods, I'll just use this for the mains. For the rods, what I'll do is to use, and it's just as good, plastic gauge. So plastic gauge is pretty much kind of a plastic thing that you kind of break off, and you put it in between, let's say the rod bearings and the rod journals. You put it in between it like this, you clamp it down, and then once you take it off, it will kind of squish out the gauge itself. And then what you do is to use these areas here to kind of measure pretty much the clearances. It's pretty accurate. It's, tried and proven. I really wanted to go the really technical way, but due to the limitation of my vice grips, or whatever you want to call it, not vice grip, the holder thing, I have this as a backup, and I wanted to use this as a backup to verify everything. Alright, so so that was a plastic gauge. So as I say, once you kind of squish it out, you put the rods and the crankshaft, squish it, you torque it down to spec, take it off back, and then whatever it squish out to, you just use this to measure, and wherever that measurement matches the closest, then that's pretty much your bearing clearance. So as I tried and proven. So the next thing I have is a digital micrometer. So this is what I actually use to measure the crank journals. Alright, so this is a 2 to 3 inch digital one, and the main reason I wanted a digital one because it's just easier to read, and if I wanted to find the difference between, say, this or to even find the clearance. So for example, let's say if I had measured this here and then I measured the rods right after, it pretty much would do the calculations for me. So if once I measured one and I go measure the next one right after, it pretty much tells me the difference between the two, which is with the clearance. So that's an advantage of it, and as I say, it's a lot easier to read. So for my setup is a 2 to 3 inch micrometer I got, because majority of the journals, so these journals are usually about a little over 2 inches, and these are a little under, these are like about 1.8 or something like that, because this is the Type R crankshaft. If it was like K20 A3, they'll measure about 1.7 in that region. But yeah, so the digital micrometer is really to help measure your clearances. So once I can measure this, and also once I go through and torque down the bearings in here, I use a telescopic gauge, find the measurement, and then I use this to telescopic gauge to get the sizing, and then I use this to get the measurement. So you see when I'm using it, the process. The next thing I have is a ring gap filer. So I may not need this because, as I said, what that happened was that I had bearings that was a problem, and not necessarily my rings. So the rings they're pretty much brand new on the car, but what I'll do is to verify them. I already kind of checked them already. I think the clearance or the bearing, the ring gap was 0.019, which isn't bad. I might go to 0.20 and 0.22 for the second one. So yeah, so that's what this is for. But if you have brand new rings and stuff and you wanted it to gap to the correct thing, you would use this. So you pretty much kind of take the ring, you put it against here, and then you use this and turn it, and the ring will be pretty much on the edge of this while it's turning, and you can get to file it down. So yeah, so ring gap file or whatever you want to be. Also have assembly lube, ARP assembly lube. So so this is for like when, because I'm using ARP studs, so for the for my rods I'm using ARP 2000s, so I'll use it here. And also for the head studs, it's ARP head studs as well, so perfect for that. So that's what this is for. Assembly lube, so very important when it comes on to assembling the engine. So when you're putting on your bearings, you know, this is what you use to kind of coat it so that the first startup isn't so harsh on the stuff. Putting in the cams and everything, we use this to help lube up the area. I have valve grinding compound. So as you can see, the head is already assembled, but I'm going to actually pull it apart, and I'm going to go through all of the valves. I'm going to grind them down to spec to ensure that everything is done, because it's a part. So here I'm just going to go through everything. And in order for me to do that, I got this spring compressor. So as you can see, so what this does is, as you can see here, it allows me to remove the keepers here. So what you simply do, it simply bolts down to the head, and then this screws down on this, and this has an opening so that once it compresses the spring, you're able to remove the keepers, and then you can easily just remove the spring. And then once I do that, now I just pop out the valves, put them in a drill, put a little compound on it, put it back in, and just slowly take your time and just go through to just ensure so the valves are seated 100% properly. Alright, so this is what I use. So this is another key tool. I have this as well. So this is for the valve lash. So you know, when you're checking the valve lash going through, so when the cams are in, because I'll be running aftermarket cams, and I go through what the bill is all about. So I'm going to tell you everything about the bill and what is in it. So I'm running BC stage 2 cams. So once I put in those cams, these are actually BC racing springs and retainers. As you can see, it says BC. Yeah, so these are springs and retainers, and I believe Farah valves have Supertech valve seals as well. So yeah, so I'm just gonna pull it apart, clean it up, reseat everything, and this will help me do that. And this will help me once the cams are in to ensure that the valve lash is accurate. To put in the pistons into the block, I bought, because this is a 86.5 millimeter, so this is a K20 block that was just bored 0.5 over. So I got this online, which will help me when it's time to install the pistons into the block, by ensuring that the rings are compressed in so that the piston can enter the block properly. So yes, another key thing to have. Am I missing anything? Torque wrench. Yes, do have a digital torque wrench here that does torque and angle. Main reason I got it is because of the angle, because when you're doing the mains, you have to torque it down to 22 foot-pound and 56-degree angle after. So once you go through the sequence, you get it down to 22, and you have to go back over the sequence at, say, at 56 degrees. There's other ways that you can do it without it, but I just wanted the easier way, so this will do that. I also have a mechanical torque wrench as well. This is a snap-on half-inch. This is a 3/8, I believe, 3/8 half-inch. So this one can go from 20 or 15 pound-foot to 100, and this goes from 30 to 200. So yeah, yeah, everybody should have more than one torque wrench anyway, so that's what this is. So yeah, so that's that. And then everything else, you know, I do have my bearings and stuff, which I go through when I'm going through the parts of what is in here, what is going to be placed in here. So yeah, so those represents the tools that I'm going to be using. Alright, so I kind of went through majority of the parts that I'm gonna have in this car already, but let's quickly just go through what it is that will be placed in the engine in order for me to make that 700 horsepower. Alright, so first things first, this is a K20 engine. So I have two blocks of, this is a K20 A3 block, and over there I have a K20 Type R block. But anyway, that's not important. Majority of the stuff within the, you know, once it's empty, they're pretty much the same. So K20 block, this is bored to 86.5 millimeters. All right, so that's the only modification to the block, stock sleeves and everything. All right, so that's the block. Crank, Type R crank, K20 Type R crank. You can tell that's the Type R crank based on the balances that you can see here. A3 cranks looks like this without the balances here, you know. So Type R crank, so don't worry about the fact that's the A3 block as in a Type R crank. The Type R crank, the head fully built, except for being ported. So I have BC springs, that's dual springs as you can see, BC retainers, keepers, Supertech valve seals. I believe there are Ferra valves, not believe, Ferra valves are in it as well. And then on top of that, now obviously it's a K20, so it has the RBC cam gears, and I'll be running BC stage 2 cams as well, not turbo cams, I believe they're all motor cams, but perfect for it. So BC stage 2 cams. Alright, so these are pistons and rods. So these are Manley Turbo Tough rods. Alright, with ARP 2000 rod bolts. These are JE 10.1 compression pistons. Right, so JE 10.1 compression pistons. Yeah, I think that's it. So pistons, rods bolts, cams, springs, retainers, stock Type R crank, bored out to 0.5 over stock, and this simple setup here, or that engine spec, is what I'm going to use to make 700 horsepower. Oh, and for the bearings, running ACL race bearings. So yeah, so I have both standard and HX, just in case I need a little extra oil clearance based on the measurements. Is there any other little thing? No, I think those are the key stuff from in terms of the engine build itself. Otherwise than that, you know, the car itself will be the same. Alright, so off camera I actually went through and measured the main journals already, and they all came to, you see here, so from the flywheel side it's pretty consistent, 2.164 all the way through with pretty much a variance of maybe the highest being what, that's from 3 to 7, that's 3, 4, 5, 4. And that's 0.0004 difference between them all the way through, but the entire crank seems to be very standard and such. So I'm going to be measuring the the mains now. So I'm going to take this girdle off. I'm going to put in standard bearings first, and then do the torque sequence, measure, and then see what the difference is between that and what I get here. Alright, so let's get that done. But maybe for demonstration purposes, what I'll do is show you how I use a micrometer, right? Because it's not a DIY kind of thing, it just kind of keeping me company while I do it, but showing you a little things. But we say go. Well, yeah. Alright, so but just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna measure one of the journals just so you can see how I do it. Alright, so one of the first things you want to do when you're doing these things and you have a digital stuff like this, so you want to do first is to ensure that you zero out, or make sure that it's zeroed out and somewhat measuring correctly. So when I buy a digital miner, that it comes with this thing, which is a 2-inch kind of dowel, and then I just use this to pretty much zero out the micrometer. So to do it, I just simply let's see if I can do it like this. So simply place it into the anvil, screw it down some more. So for a digital mic like this, you have two areas, right? So you have this small one here moves the anvil really fast so that you can meet whatever your object is, and then the bigger one now is one that pretty much kind of slowly tightens it to it so that it doesn't necessarily over tighten it. So what I usually do is to kind of use the small one here, get it as close to this as possible, and then use this to lock it in. And then once I do that, this here should show 2 inches, and this says that it's accurate up to 0.000005. So pretty accurate. Apologies for the blurry camera. I think I use my front camera now, so that's why it looks like that. But yeah, might be a little difficult doing it like this, but let's see if I can do it. So first let me turn it on, then we're going to use a big section, screw it in to as close as possible. It's a little difficult, but let's see how best we can work this. This would be the perfect time for me to be using my vise, don't it? Oh yeah, we say go. Yeah, I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing, so let's do it this way. Alright, give me a second, I'm gonna put the vise on. It's okay, I think I find a way that I can hold it. So I'm just going to, so right now it's pretty loose here, but enough space that when I lock it up you'll be able to do it. So I'm just going to do this, it's getting closer. Yeah, so what happens is that with the big one, let's say this measurement come to 2.000052, and this can, as I said, very 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 close. And as I said, as you can see now, it's almost like exactly 2 inches. So as such, with it being like everything is in it, it's there, so we can just zero it out to it now. Zero it out, I think press and hold this. No, sorry, press and hold this. Alright, so it's zeroed out to, I don't know what's happening here. Right, I think I'd accidentally switched it to millimeters instead of inches. So to zero it out, we see here, set. So once you measure, because it was literally 0.2.00001 or something like that. So that's just zero it out. I just press and hold this, and this will show me that this is the measurements. Alright, so that's how you pretty much kind of set this for it. So let's go to now measuring another crank journal. So alright, so let's see if I can get to measure this crank here. So this journal should be based on my last measurement, 2.1647. So currently it's saying, what's this, 2.234 something. Alright, so let's see if I can get it to what I had before. Alright. This feels like loose. Yeah, this is not it. Definitely not it. So hold on. So what I want to do is ensure that this thing gets a good reading, so that it actually touches a good amount of the surface area. So it takes a little patience. Alright, this feels a little better. Well, I was supposed to get 2.1647. I got 2.16455. Which again, like that last number is like today, you know. So the 2.164 is very consistent. The 0.5 and the 0.3s and so forth are important as well, because the digital mic goes all the way there. So let me take another area and see if I get that same kind of measurement. So let's ensure that I am seeing everything clearly. Alright, so this one should be pretty accurate. See? 2.16455 and pretty consistent. You know what I mean? Let's try it at another angle. 2.1645. Yep, 55. So I guess this is in the measurement, because it's very consistent. 2.1645 for this journal. Let's go. So based on this, the next one, well, the two of them to measure the same amount. So by right, the last time I measured it, it was these two were the same amount. So let's measure this other one, which is this journal here, and see if I get 2.16455, because as I said, both of them had measured the exact same thing the last time. So maybe, as I said, maybe my mic wasn't zeroed out the last time. So let's go now. 645. See? So it looked like I never zeroed out my mic the last time, because the last time these two did measure exactly the same, and they're measuring exactly the same again, 2.16455. Oh, it's a 5 now, but it was 55 originally when I took it off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and measure the rest of it, but you kind of get the gist. Okay, so I'm happy with this based on what I got. So from the file, it's pretty consistent. 2.1645, 2.1645, 2.164. That one that says 6 was 55. and sometimes it come out to 6, and then the middle one is 2.1641, sometimes it go to 2. Yeah, so it's pretty consistent with these numbers. So it look like, as I was saying, the crank itself pretty standard. Alright, so now that the prep work has been done, which is actually involves cleaning up the girdle area for to start accepting the bearings, so on the block as well, cleaning this up. Right, so I use brake cleaner with a cloth, very clean cloth, and coupled, I just went over it quite a few times to the point in which, you know, I'm not seeing anything coming off of the area, so it's completely clean. All right, so as I mentioned before, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be putting in, this is the HX, I'm gonna put in the standard version, which is this. So the difference between it is, notice if you see at the end of it you see HSTD, and for the larger ones it's HXSTD. Alright, so as you can see, I also have on my gloves, surgical gloves, you know, and we're doing surgery right now. So yeah, so we're gonna unpackage this, and then we're gonna install a set of bearings for here and a set of bearings for here. The bearings itself is not the same, so there's a specific set and specific orientation that need to go between here and here. Wherever I go here, so it's fine, but in terms of the type, they're different between the one that goes on the block and the one that comes on the cap. So alright, so let me unbox this so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so I just unboxed it. Let's see, brand new, still in the packaging. I wanted to show you what came out. I don't have this side, but I have this side I can show you. So let me just quickly show you what came out of it, just so you to kind of see where we're coming from. Alright, so this is one of them, and I remember, you know, trust me, the car never even reached the dyno. But anyway, these were also brand new, and as you can see some scarring here on one of them. Gets worse, looks worse here. And I guess this is the other two. So these are the ones that came out of the cap. If you notice, you're gonna see the difference between the two. But anyway, so this is what came out. But strange enough, is not the ones on the, it wasn't the mains that got spun, it was actually the number 3 on the rod. But yeah, so let me open this up and then install it and show you. So for this record and rest of the things that we have done, right? So I'm gonna do right now, just clean up the bearing now. Just make sure it's everything copacetic, you know what I mean? Yeah. Tongue. Snaps into place. all the these are in the right orientation, and then for here is the same thing. So here's a bearing ton right here, this indent and it's there. This one I just, it's time to just put this on top of this. Alright, so pretty much have the girdle on for the most part. So here are the screws that I have to drain. So just have them in a little oil. So I'm gonna drop them in. So as I say, I dipped in some oil. Right. So just gonna just drop them in. No. Alright, so all the bolts are pretty much in orientation. Just note, you don't need to put in the smaller bolts to get the torque spec or the torque spec for the rod journals here. You just need to torque these down, and as I mentioned before, these should be torqued down to 22 foot-pounds. So you go 22 foot-pounds all the way around, and then an additional 56 degree all the way around. Yeah, and then you know the sequence already. Go one. Alright, so right now we're just gonna torque them down. Not gonna tighten them or anything like that. Just wanna get them to a point, you know what I mean? Alright, so they're just kind of lightly tightened. So I'm just going to use a torque wrench now and let's go through it. So as I mentioned before, the sequence for me, I went online and I found the order. So based on how the orientation of the block is, because this is actually the front, that's the back. Yeah, because you can see this is our water pump and all of that. So based on the orientation that I am, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, and it's 22 foot-pounds in this sequence, and then 56 degrees this sequence. Alright, so here it is. As you can see, to 22 foot-pounds. I won't do any smaller sequence like like 10, then 5, then 20, because it's a low. 22 foot-pounds, one rotation should be enough. So let's say it's a 3/8. So it's a 3/8 torque wrench. And as I said here, it uses a 14 socket. So on a 14 socket, I'm gonna set it to 22 foot-pounds. See if I can find one that's a little closer. So I'm gonna go down to 22 foot-pounds. Just gonna set that in memory. Because it's in memory now, it's there 22 foot-pounds. So it's gonna go in the sequence that we have here with one sweeping rotation. So what I want to do, start from I like to start from all the way, and then just to set it. Alright, so going for 22 foot-pounds. The first one. Hold up. That's 22. Come on. 22. Alright, so that's 22 foot-pounds. So we're gonna go now an additional 56 degrees, same sequence. So I'm just gonna go in my memory, and as you can see, 56 degrees. So most persons don't like this torque wrench when it comes on to degrees, because if for some reason it never have any form of tension on it already, then it would have been difficult to get the degrees. But because I just torque it down to the 22 foot-pounds, the additional 50 degrees now, it will be able to read it and yeah, and get it. So set to 56 degrees. So let's go to the same sequence: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 56 degrees. Wow. 56 degrees, being tighter than the 22 foot-pound. I remember it's already at 22 foot-pound already. Yeah. All of them torque down to 56 degrees, so 22 foot-pounds in the order that you see here, and then 56 degrees after. Wow, 56 degrees I feel. Yeah, anyway, so that's how pretty much I torque it. So next step now is to use the snap T gauge. Alright, so we're going to use this. We're going to go through all of them, measure it, and we're going to put it into the micrometer here and see what the measurements is, and whatever that measurement is, we subtract it from those, and that should be our clearance. So hopefully I'm able to capture how I do it, but I would love to be able to capture how I do it, to be honest. So let's see how best I get that done. Alright, so I did some calculations using the micrometer, and now I am doing it by the plastic gauge. So I've placed the crank in. I put plastic gauge on all of the main journals. I've torqued them down to spec 22 and 56 degrees. Yeah, so before I was getting clearance, so pretty much this middle one here had the only one that never needed, I pretty much never needed extra oil clearance bearings. The clearance on this was like 0.002. This one was 0.0016 or 17. So this was just about right. This one was the same, and this one was 0.00125. So over here, based on calculation, I needed that extra oil clearance bearing. I would have put probably like a half toe on these two, but I'll leave this middle one. Add a half toe to here as well, and this one was about another half toe as well. So it's this does like 0.165, 165, 0.20, 165, 145, 125. So I have put the touch washers, not touch washers, the bearings, whatever, the plastic gauge here, bearings are in there, torqued down. So what's left now, I have to pull this back off, and then based on how it is squished down, yes, I'm looking within this region here. So 0017 to 0020. Yeah, so in this region here. So I'm gonna pull this off now and then measure based on this. Well, this is a lot easier than the something gauge, because how quickly, you have an idea how quickly I did this a while ago. So I'm definitely gonna do that for the rods as well. So yeah, that's the gauge for the wind. Alright, so now that we know that pretty much everything is standard, the clearance comes in at about 0.0015, which for the most part would be fine. 0.0015. Can just show you real quick again. So we look at the marking. Sorry. So yeah, it's just about 0.0015. Definitely not too low. So it's closer. It's definitely not 0.01. So as I say, it's closer to the 0.00. It's almost identical to it. So this one, same. So I can see it's pretty much 0.0015. Come here again. Measure. Pretty much within spec. See within spec. So as I say, with 0.0015, most cases it are alright, but given that this is going to be a turbo bill, about let's say 700 horsepower, and we also already have the extra oil clearance, I'm gonna add half a tow to it. That will carry up to 0.0020, which is perfectly ideal for this type of motor and the grade oil that I'll be running, which is going to be likely be the Valvoline VR1, and I believe this is what 2050. Pretty thick oil. I used to run, this is what I used to run. So when I had my stock K24, this was the oil that I used to run. So yeah, so I'll be running same grade 2050 but in racing oil. So yeah, as you know, the extra oil clearance would be beneficial. So I'll add, I'm going to take these out of the cap here and add the HX bearing here, just one of the on one side, because two of this would have given me an entire thou over. So instead of 1.5 would have carried me to 2.5. so I don't want 2.5, I want 2.0. so see that we have 0.0015. if you add half a tau, which is 0.005, that carried me to 0.0020. so alright, so the reason why I can't put, well, I'm not going to put them in and just lock up, because it actually, I was thinking it would have been pretty straightforward, but when I was looking at the orientation of how the piston is added to the rod is added to the piston, it's added wrong based on Honda specs anyway. So based on Honda, what they say is, so wherever I say this, the prong here, you see that prong right there, so you notice there's no prong on this side, so the prong is here and the prong is here, so it's on one side, right? So Honda recommends that this prong here be on the exhaust side, right? So as you can see, these are the prongs, and if we follow it come up and we're looking at the top of the piston, we can see clearly that this is the intake side, that is the exhaust side, because it's bigger. You can tell that because, yeah, usually intake valves are bigger than the exhaust valves. So I need to flip these rods around, so to make this be on the exhaust side. And if you don't believe me, you can Google it, but I do have a couple stock pistons, but I'll just bring out the Type R one to show you. So as you can see, this is a PRB. So this came out of a K20A. Alright, so this hasn't been dismantled. Now you can see the bearing is still in it. One thing it do is open up and lock back when it came off of the rod. So this hasn't been removed. As you can see, it's all dirty and everything, right? So clearly see where IN is, which is the intake. So obviously if this is the intake, this is the exhaust. So based on what me say, the prong side should be right here, so right? Alright, let's check if me right. So never been removed, came out of a stock K20A. Let's see which side the prong is on. What is that? A prong? Let's see, just to make sure. What is that? Prong. Alright, so we're gonna follow, come up, and we've up this as the intake, down as the exhaust. So yeah, outside of what Google said, I actually have a few pistons. I have a K20, I have K24, I have this K20A, and I have a K20A3. I have 3 set of rods, right? That came out of K series, and every single one of them, the prong here is on the exhaust side. So I'm gonna follow Honda, and I'm gonna do it for these, because every single one of them that's there, it is on the intake side. So you can see prong here, follow straight up, intake, because as you can see, it's the big side. Alright, intake, so that's one of them. Here's another one. This is the intake side up here. That means based on the fact that it's installed wrong, that means you're supposed to the prong is on this side, right? Yep. Right, because it will may not see good. Let's see if we can get it from this angle. But yeah, you see it? It's right there. Boom. Right there. And of course the bearing is in it, but it is right there. So let's follow, come up, and boom, on the intake side. So that's 2 out of 4. And just trust me, said the rest of them stay the same way. So I need to take those pistons off, turn them around on the rod, then I can install it into the back. But I need a pick to kind of get out the C-clip, because I don't have anything to kind of get under there and get it. So I ordered a pick off Amazon, should get here soon. So once I get that, or maybe I can go link my mechanic and maybe we can just take it off for me. So yeah. Alright guys, welcome back. Alright, so I did a lot of things off camera. So I'd actually installed these pistons before the rods. Took a while for me to, you know, get used to using this. You know, even online says it's pretty easy, but you know, it took a little while for me to figure it out. But I'm able to use it pretty well now. But I was able to put in the rods, at least 2, number 1 and number 4, and I had to take out back number 4 because the rod was the orientation for it was incorrect. So I had to just take it out, flip it around, and then, but the reason why I installed them, I wanted to do a test with the plastic gauge. Now when I had installed it to the plastic gauge now and was trying to torque it down with the crank as is, it kept turning, the girth disc kept turning, right, because it's so free, you know what I mean. So I was getting some incorrect readings. So while I did use plastic gauge on the girdle side, which was based on what I did, which was half HX and half standard, and it was based on the reading that I got from both my micrometer and the plastic gauge. So they were, once I did everything, it came to within 0.002 clearance across the board. Now for the rods, because I was getting the issue where, you know, the crank was just turning with me, I just decided that I must go now work with my micrometer. So my micrometer now, I used this, put the rods in, and I torqued them down based on specs, and then use my snap T gauge, measure the bore, and measure it using the micrometer, then use a micrometer and measure each one of the journals them accordingly. So the rods them now, the measurement came to, if you can probably see them up here, for number 1, 1.8902, number 2, 1.8901, number 3, which is the rod that was I spun this is the bearing that was spun, and I bought, this is a new rod. So, you know, yeah. Anyway, so this coming at 1.0, this was actually 1.05, and 1.8901. So as you can see, they're pretty much within spec, with the number 3 being the new one, being a little bit more, because as I said, it's supposed to be 5. I did it a couple times and I forgot to update it. So this is supposed to be 1.8905. But anyway, once we did that, then we did the measurements across the board for this. I don't believe these are the correct ones. I think I updated them. But once I did it, I used the micrometer, and the micrometer actually gave me the clearance. And everything, number 1, number 2, and number 4, gave me a clearance of about 0.001, between 0.0001 and 0.0012, across the board for 1, 2, and 4. Right? For number 3, it came in at 0.0015. So the clearance that I'm looking to have for the rods is between 0.002 0.20 and 0.00 around 25. So given that is only a 0.001 clearance across the board for 1, 3 and 1, 2 and 4, I'm going to put in HX bearings complete on the rod and the cap on both sides. So a full toe extra which we carry to 0.0020 across these, and maybe a slight over for some 0.0022 and so forth, which would be within the spec that I want for this motor. And for the number 3, I would only use one HX bearing because it came in at 0.0015, so I put in half a toe, it came to 0.0020. So for the rod for number 3, I'm just going to use one HX bearing and one standard bearing, but every one of them, every other one, every 1, 2 and 4, I'm going to use HX for the complete set. Alright, so I've also already gapped the ring. It's just a pity, I think I have it on camera, so you may have gotten it, but the rings are gapped to point for the top ones at 0.0020 and for the second compression ring at 0.0, sorry, not 0.00, 0.020 and 0.022. Right, so top one 0.020, second one 0.022, and measured it across the board for each one of them. So that's already done, and the rings are already in the orientation that it should be. So this being the intake side at the top here, so top one should be right here, second one should be right here, and then for the lower ring we call them again, the gap, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so this, they're all there as well, so here and here, and then the squirrely thing, let's ensure it's not overlapped and is within this area of the piston as well. So they're all set in this orientation already. As I say, I've installed number 1 and number 3 in the block already and took them back out. So what I'm going to do now is to take out the rod, the bearings here. I'm going to clean up the rod journals here, clean up the rod journals here using my brake cleaner and some coffee filter, because obviously there should be no link coming over from this because you drink your coffee through it, right? So yeah, so I use coffee filter. I'm going to clean out inside and in here, so, and that using brake cleaner. Alright guys, so this some work off camera. I actually installed 3 of the 4 rods already, as you can see, and actually torqued those down already. So I just left one to see, just to kind of demonstrate what I did. So first I use some brake cleaner and clean out the rod cap and then this is the bearing itself. I did the same thing. I did some I cleaned it with some brake cleaner as well. So it's just a matter of installing it into the cap. I'm gonna apply some lube here, as well, then install it and then torque it down to spec. So alright, so set it up now. Let's clean it up. So what I use, I try to just get some coffee paper, and then I use some brake cleaner. Don't have to see it, make sure it's the bearing cap line up with the bearing cap on this side. So wherever the bearing cap is, that's where on the rod side must be on the cap side as well. So bearing cap is here, bearing cap is there. Let's line it up. Boom. And into the board. Alright, so I mentioned got 3 sequence, 15, 35, 55. So let's go to 15 first. Alright, so 15 pound foot. That's 15. Going up to 35. And then 55. Project. So we're pretty much done with the short block. So so again, specs that I did have a mixture of standard and HX for the mains. So the HX are on the cap side and the standards are on the block. For the rods, based on the measurements I did, clearance that I had was with standards were 0.001, except for this one, which is the number 3, it's came out at 0.0015. Rest of them is like 0.0012, 11, 10 in that region, because we're looking for clearance of about 0.0020, between 20 to 25. For every one of them, as I mentioned, I did a full HX bearings here, and for the one for 0.15, we add only a half of the, well, half HX, half standard, which should carry it to 2.0. So yeah, so we should have the right clearances in. Everything is in right now. It is completed. I should be able to turn this. 1 second. Alright. So yeah, pistons are in. If I push this down, it should up those. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, you understand. So yeah.
Wallan real gangster. Wallan TV, them bad but them a actor. Plasma full of Benjamin and Sang.